economies, and so on. And the discussion on investment ecosystems is quite broad, because when you talk about an ecosystem, you're talking about all the cogs that are linked around this particular ecosystem. And the beauty of this particular session that we have today is that we have a man with vast experience, we have a man with vast knowledge, and we have a man who's tasked with the digital agenda for the entire continent. A man who I affectionately call Boss. Please allow me just to welcome our guest of honor, the Director General, the CEO of Smart Africa, Mr. Lacina Koné. DG, please just some words of introduction to the audience.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much, everyone. Special thanks to KLab, my brother Aphrodis, and for organizing this. It's very important. I know we probably I met some of you before, and I think some of you haven't met, maybe it's the first time, but I'm very happy, and the pleasure is really mine to be here, to be able to answer your questions. And I prefer to be really interactive because I want to make sure I hit on the point exactly of what you're expecting. Most of you know about Smart Africa. Maybe you don't know about everything what we do and how we do it and why we do it. And I want to make sure I will be able to answer your questions to your expectations. And I will be brief and expecting you, all of you, to ask questions, and so that I can answer, or I can guide you to the right path where you can get the right information. And yeah, by having said that, I will give you the floor. Thank you very much, Garikai. I'm actually flattered with this introduction.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koné. Now we'll jump straight into it. You've got some vast international experience in the private sector. You've got public sector experience as well. And right now you are in charge of Africa's digital agenda. Now, from that global experience and that global view, what's your take on investment coming into Africa? It can be ICT investment, because I know Smart Africa is focused on ICT, or even rural on your experience. How do you see it? Is it a positive trajectory?
Thanks very much for the questions. When I was first invited to this talk to talk about the investment in ecosystems in Africa, it's really huge and it's very vast. And you can see some background noise here because we are really downtown. It's very vast. The ecosystem is very vast. But first and foremost, investment in ecosystem has some precursor to do. The precursor are the regulatory issue. And that's where Smart Africa really play a big role. Because you see, unlike other investments, if you see something you would like to invest in it, you jump into it, you start investing, you start milking it. And ICT in the digital economy is a bit different. The investor comes to any country in Africa, even around the world, the first thing they look at for is a regulatory issue. It's a regulation attractive enough to invest in this particular area, in this particular country is one thing, and in this particular area is another thing. Because the country law could be different, and the country law exists, and also investment in a particular area in ICT is also entirely a different things. So when we talk about investment into Africa in general, really for example, where we're standing in terms of Smart Africa with the digital agenda is really huge, because first of all, we need to look at the policy issue, regulatory issue, and how attractive to the investor. I want all of you to be thinking, why until now, with all this booming on the internet, on the social media, why we don't have yet big data centers from the GAFAM installed in Africa, established in Africa, with hiring African young people? The response to that is a lack of law, lack of regulation, lack of harmonizations among African countries, because those GAFAM big investors, when they come into a country, two things to look for: the infrastructure, in our case, in this case, the telecommunication infrastructure, but I add on the top of it the energy infrastructure, before we even talk about the law that governs the data, that governs the technology. That's one of the reasons we are, until now, our generation, we are still consuming technology. We are not part of the equation of creating value, because all what we do, we browse the technology. Those servers are sitting outside Africa. So we are just users. From the moment we'll be elaborating our own law in Africa, having a kind of a GDPR for data protections, for data centers, so on and so forth. And those investors, they will come and establish themselves in Africa and create jobs, then we really can be a player. That's what I will say.
Thank you for that, Mr. Koné. And I could see a lot of heads nodding. And your introduction actually gave us a lot to be able to tackle on. We're talking policy issues, we've spoken regulatory issues, data centers, harmonization, energy. So these are all things that we'll tap into. But before we go there, I want to touch a bit on what Smart Africa stands for, the vision, to create a single digital market by 2030. And this is a vision that at the moment, 30 countries representing 750 million people across Africa have signed up to, over 40 private sector members, including Facebook, Microsoft, and so on. Now, just for audience to understand, what becomes the value on an investment perspective for a single digital market?
Well, you see, when you look at the theme for Smart Africa, it says connect, innovate, and transform. First of all, it's a connectivity. Once you have a connectivity, then you must innovate in order to transform. But look at this carefully. The Smart Africa's vision to create a single digital market by 2030. This is the 30 African country effort, head of the state engaged to put the ICT at the center of the social economic development. The size of populations of Africa is 1.2, 1.3 billion. Every one of you, startup, innovator, accelerator, incubator, on this call here, you have a potential to be a unicorn. What makes America, America, and what makes China, China? Doesn't matter the technology, it's the size of the market. America is the 330 million, but most of the technologies in America is not only targeting to American people, it's targeting to the global market. What made China, China today? Because China itself as a country is a 1.5 billion population, which means Africa with a 1.3 billion population, we have the potential to create a billionaire every single day. If one innovator, one startup develops something in Rwanda that works well in Africa, it's a potential market for a 1.3 billion population. Imagine an application sold for $1. It basically means Africa, we can create a billionaire every day. That is this is the idea behind the single digital market. Then we become a real power. But in order to do that, we have to realize we have a lot of young populations. Close to 800 million populations in Africa is less than 30. This combined together with the fact that you all know a lot of statistics are out there in the market saying 75 to 80% of the jobs by 2030 has not even been created yet. So if 70 to 80% of jobs in 2030 has not been created yet, it means that the backbone of all this transformation is really the innovation. It's not only the connectivity. You can have the connectivity. If you don't have young people to innovate, you will not be able to transform by 2030. So that is a potential opportunity represented in Africa, which will actually transcend the borders and they promote our unity. Because no matter what we do, as long as it's a natural resources, based on the natural resources in a country, it's all finite. You will all agree with me. But one thing, important thing I would like to tell you, do you know that the market capitalization for top 8 GAFAM companies in the stock market on the Fortune 500 company in the US, the top 8, the market capitalization is more than 50 biggest telecom around the world together, combined. Why? Because it's data. Do you understand that the data, it is the new oil? That's why it's important. But we are 1.3 billion populations. We generate a lot of data. What do we do with our data? But we only generate data because application exists. We only generate data because application exists. If application exists, it means innovators are doing the right work. I'm talking about a startup. Don't expect the people like Mark Zuckerberg going to come to Africa and tell us what to do in our African context. No, it's you and I, everyone here. It's responsibility to create, to innovate the technology in the context of our use in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Koné. I think one thing I think that will be a quotable quote that's going to come out of here is something that you said, that Africa has the potential to create a billionaire every single day. I saw Marcel Jaff with a big smile when you said that. And I think he was very excited by that. And I think even if we take it to very simple terms, if you create a sweet that people like and you sell it for $1, if you're selling it to 1 billion people, that's a lot of money and a lot of potential. And I think that's great. And you also had a call for action where you're telling us to do stuff with our own data. So I'm hoping that the audience is listening to that particular call for action. But I'm going to ask something more particular. You talked about regulation. I want to find out what Smart Africa is doing around this, because sometimes our innovators here have incredible solutions. And fair and fine, in Rwanda, you're told, yes, your solution is brilliant. But the moment you cross the border into Uganda, the regulator says, no, this one is not allowed here. So what's your take on regulation in terms of stifling or encouraging investment in the continent? And what's Smart Africa doing around regulation?
You know, talking about a policy, as I said, the right regulations promote investments, attract the right regulations, attract also the right investments. African countries are doing a lot, but they're doing it in the silos. Anything that has to concern the trans-border adaptability, then it becomes an issue. Like a startup, you can grow here. The environment is very attractive in Rwanda to develop this application, to do this. You leave Rwanda, you go to Uganda, Kenya, you go to South Africa. See the laws are different. It means we are not acting as one United Nations. That's our role. More can always be done. As we can see, we have a more progressive leaders lately and high growth, and we have experienced over the last several years. It means there are individual countries are very aggressive and progressive in terms of law taking. So the policy, a cross-border policy, that's what we're working on. We do know that politically, we do have an African Union who's actually overseeing the entire vehicle for the CFTA, as they call it, Continental Free Trade Agreement. But we believe in Smart Africa, technology will actually precede all of these, because we believe that policy harmonization across border, it is a key to unite Africa or to transform Africa into a single digital market. That's why, first of all, we create Council of African Regulators that we meet every 3 months. What's the Council of African Regulators? They are regulators of each individual 30 country members and beyond, even the non-members sometimes attend. We call them every 3 months to actually meet. We have an agenda, we have agenda in the pipeline to expose to them what are the issues, what country need to do together, It can be a regulation harmonization on startup, regulation harmonization on One Africa Network, regulation harmonization on the data centers. Why do we have to do this? We have to think together. That's why CAR is important and harmonization also is important. By the same talking also, we do have a Council of African Ministers. We've just recently held a third meeting of the Council of African ICT Ministers. This is the way for us to push our harmonized work to the agenda of the ministers before we actually take it to the steering committee and to the board that we organize every Transform Africa Summit. So harmonization is important, exactly, because what it allows the innovator or a startup to do, it basically, you are no longer a startup just focusing on the Rwandan market, no. You do not have a 12 million population market in Rwanda here. You will be tapping into a 1.2 billion market. That's the only way for us to grow. That's what I said to you. China did not become China overnight. America did not become America overnight. And we have something in common, as I said. God has created two things. The first thing he has created equally. We all have a brain. It's the same material. We know how to think. We went to the same school. God has created that brain equally. But God has created other things, not unequally. It is African continent youth people. We are lucky to be close to 800 million young people less than 30. No other continent has this advantage in the world. So I think when we say leapfrogging, it means the future of Africa is actually on our shoulder to be able to lead this continent to the next level.
That's very powerful, Mr. Koné, that the future of Africa is actually sitting on our shoulders. And as I take a look at the audience that we have, I recognize quite a few entrepreneurs and people within the tech space, also people who are aligned with KLab and so on, which brings me to my next question, because the buzzword that seems to be going around these days is that the future lies in the digital economy. And I think people say digital economy very often, but not many people fully understand what it is. Might you be able just to enlighten the audience in terms of what that digital economy is and how the people here can tap into it, to tap into investment, to tap into opportunities?
Thank you very much for the questions. The digital economy buzzword, you have to know, what is a digital economy? Anything we usually do conventionally, physically, with the face-to-face has to be transported, I would say, into a digital. What does that mean? It means our daily life, anything we do conventionally, we go shopping, we do e-commerce. We go applying for public services, we do it online. We do physical money payment, we do it now online with a mobile payment. We vote, we usually go to the voting booth to vote, we can vote online. We want to participate in a discussion in the parliament, we do it. We want to buy mortgages, houses, we want to apply for mortgages, we can do everything online. It's basically taking the entire economy digital. But by saying that, the buzzword concept of this digital economy, we should not be looking at the ICT as one sector. Among other sectors, health, transportation, education, agriculture, name it. The ICT is the sector. It's like the blood vein in the human being, because every single sector is touched. I'm talking about smart city, I'm talking about agriculture, I'm talking about health, I'm talking about education. Today, e-education, teleconferencing, how they call it, telemedicine is happening in the health sector. So anything we do on a conventional basis is taken online. That takes a lot of work, a lot of processes, transformation into a digital world. But the backbone of that digital world, as I said again in our theme in Smart Africa, is connectivity. It doesn't matter if I transform my steps, if my processes to be transformed. For example, if I usually go to any single particular minister to apply for some paperwork, if I have to do it online, the fundamental key requirement for going online is connectivity. That remains the question. Now talking about the connectivity. Some of you may not know, all these war, it's about 51% of the world population is connected and 49% remain unconnected in the world. When you take that in Africa, before going to African statistic, I will tell you something. If we combine the satellite connectivity, satellite coverage around the whole world, to see how many satellites out there, we'll look at the coverage. If we look at the submarine cable coverage in every single country, we'll look at the entire fiber optic capacity around the world, the supply cover close to 95% of the Earth's surface. It means all the satellite, all the fiber optic, all the submarine cable, everything combined together, it covered 95%. So why Africa is still trailing at 34.5 or 35% of broadband connectivity? It is the regulations that should attract the investment in that. That's the connectivity. Connectivity in rural area, connectivity in the urban area. So if it's not a supply problem, that the demand is there, then why Africa is not up to 50% connectivity on the broadband? Is still 34% that we in Smart Africa, through our working group broadband strategy, we want to increase that by 2025 to 50%, to be able to jump another 15% by actually inciting our regulators to make regulation more attractive, to be able to invest, attract more investors. So we are not there yet. Look, 34%, 35% of African populations have a broadband connectivity. About 25% have a broadband connectivity, not affordable. You can have an infrastructure, not affordable. And you have another 30%, which makes a total 100%, which is not connected at all, area where connectivity has not reached, which need investment. Today, in the ballpark, the investment gap in connectivity by World Bank numbers and World Economic Forum is over 100 billion US dollars investment needed in Africa to connect. And talking about that connectivity, that's one of the reasons we have a flagship project led by Guinea and Smart Africa together with our partner Tata Communication. It's called Intra-Africa Connectivity. This is very important, intra-Africa connectivity. It doesn't matter how many fiber, we lay out across Africa on a submarine, it going under the sea. As long as we are not connected individually to each other, it does not make any sense. Do you know why? Because our data, our information will always transit outside Africa. Then what is the sovereignty? That's why in Africa, in Smart Africa, we have also on a connectivity level, we do have an intra-Africa connectivity flagship led by Guinea, and we have a broadband strategy flagship led by Senegal that we did a study we'll be sharing very shortly. On the top of that, even, what are we doing to push the cost of this connectivity to go down, to be affordable? We also launched a study called bulk purchase. The bulk purchase is an innovative way for investment. It's like there are 3 different levels of contract you can have with any supplier of telecommunication infrastructure. I want this now for like a short term. I want this contract, lease contract for connectivity for short term, has a price. And it has another way that you take a long-term process, which is 10, 15 years, or the country can invest in the hardcore infrastructure of the fiber itself. We try through Smart Africa to come together as a club of 30 countries or more than 30 countries to say, okay, This is a demand we can guarantee you for the next 10, 15, 20 years. What this will allow us to do, it will allow us to get at least 20 to 30% discount on the price of the connectivity, which each country can pass it on to the population to make internet affordable on the connectivity side. I will stop that right here.
So thank you very much, Mr. Koné. I think I really like the way that you've tied in how policy is even driving things like connectivity, which also impacts the actual investment that's coming in, and also the investment potential into SMEs, and also just how I think the innovation and the investment ecosystem is more than just money, because this investment in the bulk purchase that you've talked about means that costs for internet will come down, and costs come down for startups and for small businesses, which could give them a better chance for survival and better profit. I'm going to take this opportunity just to remind our audience that if you want to type a few questions into the chat facility that's at the bottom of the screen, please do so, and we'll make sure to pose these questions to Mr. Koné. Now, I'm going to dovetail away from the infrastructure aspect into something that you mentioned, and I'm going to talk about startups. Now, I think one of the discussions is that Africa has a very young population. I think you mentioned that a bit earlier, and that the responsibility is on us. And in Africa, the statistics say that 70% of employment is either startups or small businesses. How are you seeing the investment within small businesses and startups? And what's Smart Africa's position around startups?
Thank you very much for your questions. You see, the startup issue is very important. Some of us were born, some of us also were not born back in the 90s or before 90s. Microsoft was a mom and pop shop. Mom and pop shop, it was a small company, it was a startup. I remember still Windows 3.2.0, Windows 3.1. There were many startups at the time. SAP was a startup. Oracle was a startup. Google was a startup. Facebook was a startup. What is running our world today? We are surrounded today with the social media, all of these, WhatsApp and Facebook and so on and so forth. They were all startups like you and I. So nothing is impossible. 70% of African jobs are startup and SMEs. If you look at the demographic, even in America, the same thing applies. Those startup becomes SMEs and becomes a corporation, they become corporate America. If 70 to 80% of the job in 2030 has not been created yet, it means what does Africa rely on to be able to create jobs? On startups. Applications. What do we do in the context of Africa? Simple example, mobile money. We win that battle. But if it wasn't for innovations, do you think mobile money today will be a success story in Africa? If Safaricom in Kenya had to wait for the regulator to create a law to permitting for mobile money transaction, it would have never seen the light. So innovation of the startup is the engine. You disrupt everything. You disrupt the law, you disrupt the regulation. It pushes the government to adapt the law, to make the law adaptable to accommodate that. We talked today about blockchain, for example. Do you think we're going to, or cryptocurrency, do you think we're going to run away from it? No, it's coming. It's not a matter of what, it's a matter of when. The cryptocurrency. There's a lot of things we, African way of living, we can adapt it to the technology. That's what we need to be focusing on. That's what I call it innovation. We don't have to do things like the way things are being done in Europe or in the West. We have to do it in the context of Africa. What goes with our people, what goes with our way of living. Innovate and push, be aggressive and bold. You force different countries to adapt to the regulation to accommodate that, just like we've seen the historical data on Safaricom. That's what it is about startup. That's when I said the future of Africa lies on our shoulder. Because for us to take from point A, we are in 2020 to 2030, to be able to be a strong continent, to create a lot of unicorn, it will take a lot of work, a lot of audacity, a lot of boldness. Because every single application we use today, it was a startup to start with. WhatsApp, Viber, Facebook. It was a startup before. As I said to you, God has created two things, one equally, one unequally. Equally, we all have a brain. Nobody's better than us. I'm not saying we're better than others too. No. We are equally as important as the young people, young generation, to think free. And the second thing is we are young. It means we have a lot of potential, we have a lot of energy. Okay.
Thank you, DG. And I think you're right. We've got a lot of energy, we've got a lot of brain power, and I think the future rests with us. Now, I'm going to ask a bit of a pointed question, which I think everyone here might also want to know. Now, we've got an understanding of the ecosystem around supporting businesses in Africa, you know, the technology, the broadband, and so on. Let's talk about money. On the money side, what can technology do to improve investment into startups within Africa?
You see, it's what technology can do in order to attract the money, investments in Africa. Is that what it is? Is that what the question is?
Yes, that's correct. Or to assist in
you see, what is happening on the continent, private sector, foreign direct investments, some of them are investing in the startup. And we see South Africa, Kenya, Nigeria are taking part of that. Even Rwanda is taking part of that. That is actually a peanut of what can be attracted in Africa if the regulations and harmonization was in place. For example, when I gave the example of Safaricom, you have to be bold. You see, we have to be out there and creating, innovating things for the investor to look at this, to be that this is attractive, this is something I can invest in. And when they come, the third party, which is the regulation, adapt the law to make that investment possible. If you guys remember back in the 90s, people who were living in the States at that time in the dot-com area, were the investor telling people to go and create the dot-coms? It's exactly. It became, the dot-coms became the bubble. People like Barnes & Noble, for example, is a bookseller. They did not have online service. There was a startup doing that. A startup from the garage of their home. They were actually selling books by buying from Barnes & Noble and selling it to the end user. And Barnes & Noble, end of the day, start acquiring all these companies. That's what we need to be doing. Things we do on a daily basis, transform it, put it online, bricks and mortar company will be interested and they will see a need for it and they will go for an investment, then will follow. That's what when I say innovation, young people, leapfrogging, it's all about us, what we do on a daily basis, how we can transform it. I'll give you a very simple example. Even the blockchain, they've been talking about blockchain, so on and so forth. Africa will be the best use cases for blockchain because to start with, everyone works in a silo. They don't have to trust each other, but the blockchain will allow us, blockchain technology would allow us to trust each other, not to trust each other, but to work with each other with a common goal. It's a natural fit. Most of our governments in Africa here are decentralized. Department works in a silo. They do not want to share data. You don't have to, but we can get to the same objective by not sharing information, sensitive information, but we still will work in the trust manner. Look at the use cases for blockchain, for example. Look at the use cases for artificial intelligence. Here's my iPhone. I talk to my Siri. Who determined that? Who said that Siri should speak English? Who decided that Siri should speak Chinese or French? Why I can't speak to Siri in Kinyarwanda? There is no reason why I cannot activate Siri using Kinyarwanda. It's artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence will be a big win in Africa. Why? Because it will allow uneducated people, IT savvy wise, to use the technology as an educated person. My grandmother in my village, whether it's in Gisenyi or Kibuye, will be able to talk to Siri in the Kinyarwanda, and it will do the action and function that it's supposed to do, that a typical IT savvy person will do. What prevents us to be developing things like that in artificial intelligence? We in Africa, we're not born to follow. We're not born to follow. We can lead, and we can lead big time. We have all the ingredients to do so. I see a lot of unicorn on this call. Thank you.
That's very powerful, DG. That's I think extremely powerful. We're not built to follow. We can lead, and I think we certainly can take the front seat and lead. Now, I'm going to ask you one more question before we open up to the floor. So what that means for our audience is that I've seen some questions in the chat, which we'll pass to Mr. Koné. But at the same time, if you want to ask him a question verbally, please you press the button that says raise your hand, and then we'll recognize you to be able to ask your questions. Now, the last question that I'm going to ask you before we open up to the floor is more of a current affairs question. Just to say, COVID-19 is a situation that we are in now. And a lot of people feel that this has slowed down innovation, slowed down investment in Africa. What's your take on this? And if it really has it slowed down? If it really has, do you think we can bounce back?
Yes. On the outside, when you look at the economy, yes, every single country was affected by the COVID. But seriously, I truly believe that COVID is an opportunity to reshuffle the card, to redistribute the card. And I will tell you, every single biggest economy in the world failed. Healthcare system failed, economic system failed. Who survived during the COVID? In terms of government business continuity, private sector business continuity, they were only the country where the government services were online. Who says online? It means our sector, your sector, my sector, all our sector. Because to have a government service online, to have a private sector online, it means it comes from innovation. Innovation may have come from a startup or an SME. So it basically means that the digital economy sector or ICT sector will remain stronger than even before because it has a cause now. We've been saying countries need to transform. Some people, some countries listened to it. They took the lead on it. They survived during the crisis. Some other countries were lagging in terms of decision making. In order to move on, then they suffer a little bit because suddenly you find more than 3 billion students sitting home. They need a device, a smart device to log in. But we've been talking about that. Every single country had their own experience in Africa. Smart device initiative, one student, one school, one student, one computer, one citizen, one computer. We've all done it before. What has worked, what has not worked? Yes, economy took hit, but it's a big time an opportunity to reshuffle the card, if you know what I mean. Reshuffle the card. I see that as an opportunity for startup. I saw in certain countries, even here in Rwanda, not only for the COVID response platform that we all want to start developing, so on and so forth, but you have to look at it as a suite, because the COVID is not only impacting, we're not developing only application to diagnose, assess, the self-assessment, and so on and so forth. When people are stuck home, what do they do on a daily basis that I can take online? E-commerce, farmers, shops, pharmacies, appointment with a doctor, transportation, so on and so forth. Mobile money. You see what I'm talking about? Now I am confined at home. What can I do online? You, startup, what can you do for the population of Africa in order for them to stay home and live just like they were living before? Because what we're living today, trust me or not, it is a new normal. It's the new normal. But a typical urban or rural person sitting home, what can he do using the devices without actually moving? So that's an opportunity. This cannot be a downturn. It means show me what you can do. That's what I'm saying. It is a time to reshuffle the card. I hope I answered that question.
Thank you very much. I like that. And the challenge is really to us. Show us what can be done. And I think that's the important thing. It brings the challenge back home. I'm going to ask a question that came on the chat line. My brother Marcel Jaff, who I can see on the video right here with a big smile again, is asking, which countries do you feel are the most favorable for digital investment right now? And I think he's referring to African countries.
In the African country, really, it depends on the area. And as we will be publishing very soon, a study we did on the digital economy, benchmarking. Digital economy, flagship led by Kenya. We expanded to the rest of Africa. We came up with some higher ranking. We have so far now about 7 countries, but you can see, when you say digital economy is so huge, because when you talk about fintech, we see Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa. When we talk about some other area, for example, blockchain, artificial intelligence can be in Rwanda, but we will be actually publishing that report very soon. Stay following us on the social media, and you will be getting definitely hints of the ranking of African country and where to go invest. Who has done what in the past 3-4 years? What has happened? You know exactly where each country is standing and where the opportunity lies. But for us, as a Smart Africa, we have a flagship project. Each country has a flagship project. South Africa is artificial intelligence. Rwanda is a smart city. Kenya is a digital economy. Ghana is a fintech, is a financial intra-Africa payment system. Ivory Coast, my own country, is a cybersecurity. Burkina Faso is a capacity building. Niger is a smart village. So we have all of these cattle around all this country. So soon, just stay tuned. You will be getting the hint where exactly you should be doing. We will tell you where each country is standing, and you can see if you are interested in the blockchain technology, if you're interested in artificial intelligence, if you're interested in being a startup in the broadband connectivity, or you want to focus on capacity building, or you want to focus on the smart cities, you will see exactly what you can do.
There you have the answer, Marcel. So stay tuned, and the answer will come quickly to you. I recognize Robert Ngezi, who's got his hand up. Robert, please unmute and you can ask a question.
Hi, Koné. It's really nice to hear you talk, and it's really great to hear all the good work you're doing. My name is Robert. My name is Robert Ngenzi. I'm a software developer from Rwanda. I'm based in Finland. My question is, as diaspora, it's a big problem when we want to start something in Africa. It's really hard to get the right connections to to be able to reach out to our clients and be able to start something. How can we reach out to you? So, like, for you to connect us with. For me personally, I would like you to connect me with some clients I'm targeting. I'm working on a speech recognition technology. I've developed a software that help. Now at the current stage, we can help brands optimize their radio and TV advertising. We have run successful trials with 10 companies so far in Rwanda, including MTN, Tax Office, Rwanda Revenue Authority, Energy Office, Electricity Board, Water Board, and BK, and Bank of Kigali. So I would like to get some connections from you. So that's what I wanted to ask.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the questions, Robert. Amakuru, as they said, right?
Nimeza.
Okay. It's very simple. The way Smart Africa work, we have private partners over 43. We have platinum members, gold members, silver members, entrepreneur level, and we have academia. We do have some startup, some company who join us as a startup. I think I don't have the figure. My team can certainly get it. You can get in touch with Garikai, who can lead you on that. But most of the time, these people who are members of Smart Africa as a startup, for example, you want to go to Senegal, you want to be known in Senegal. We can certainly tell you what's the point of entry of what you are doing. That's what we do. Mm-hmm. We can tell you what's the point of entry. You're interested, for example, you're developing your software developer, you're interested in developing maybe applications to be able to transform the government traditional functions online, just like you do for the energy sector and so on and so forth. All what we do, we can put you in touch, in contact directly with the Minister of ICT or the agency who works under the Minister of ICT said, we do have a Rwandan developer, we do have a startup here who is a member of Smart Africa and will actually present their application to you. You know, but one of the things, I wanted to add something here too. We've done working with the Startup Act of the Smart Africa. The Startup Act is a flagship led by Smart Africa in Tunisia. We've published it. We are going to present it at the board. We were going to present it at the board in Guinea. Unfortunately, because of COVID, we postponed everything. As part of that, the Startup Act, what we did is like, we are pushing every single country. Tunisia has done it. Senegal has done it. Mali is doing it. Other countries are doing it also. Kenya and here and South Africa and so on and so forth, to give a special label to startup. But we do not want to say, for example, if you have a startup label for Tunisia, then you can only function in Tunisia. We want all of the Smart Africa countries to adopt that Startup Act. It means that if you're a startup in Rwanda, you can benefit from the same advantage you have in other countries and Smart Africa member. You follow me? That's also in the context of policy harmonization. But if you get in touch with the Garikai later, we can give you more information how you can be introduced to other countries as a startup or as a developer.
Is it possible to get your, any contacts of a person I can contact for like further details?
Robert, that would be me.
Okay, cool. Very cool. All right.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And thank you so much. And thank you for tuning in all the way.
Yeah, this is Geoffrey.
Okay, Geoffrey, we'll allow you to ask a question. But next time, please raise your hand so that we can recognize you.
Yeah, already I've just raised
He was raising hands in the video.
Sorry, man. There's a button on the right-hand side where you press and say raise your hand. But please continue.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Geoffrey from Rwanda. I'm a student in University of Rwanda. So you have said that now these days the most thing in the we have talked about the ecosystem, but the most thing like we are you're most like you are supposed to just like focus like in IoT, the Internet of Things. You know that it is almost like now these days it is a connectivity in the most suitable words used for the world as we are living in the Internet of Things as the peak of the hip and the beauty of its own ecosystem based on the sensors and the actuators, which is mostly as they communicate on the customer designed platform, like also through the wirelesses, most also like sales and fixed some other communications, also like network. Also, you know that you have said that also the like ecosystem generates like some amount of the data, which is almost like captured everywhere. You see, like we need also to focus. We have talked about like those countries almost like they are smart. They have the business. Uh, how are we going to overcome? Like you know that you say that we need just to be united as like one Africa united. Like you see, like in Congo, most of them like have almost like 90. They are not almost like connected, and I don't know how we are going to overcome like to entire the Africa so that will be united. Just you say. So I want also you talk about like some of those countries which almost like still down, Congo, like Burundi. Also, again, how are we going just to use the IoT based on our ecosystem like we have seen, like you have said about like in China, again also in the United States. So my question is about when are you choosing an IoT solution? The strengths of ecosystems should be taken as the one key of decision parameters as the how we are heading just to progress in terms of the technology. Again, also I would like to know what's like the ecosystem as the benefit as the entire in Africa system. And again, what's the most like the role?
Right.
Yeah, the role of the ecosystem. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
The moderator and the host and the CEO. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey. So I think DG is asking mainly about IoT, and he's asking what the value of this ecosystem is.
Yeah, sure, I got it. You know, okay, when I said innovation, it does not mean just software innovations. Remember what I said. Imagine in our context, you're sitting home, anything you were doing before physically, you have to be able to do it while sitting at home. Of course, the innovation will involve software development. It will involve IoT sensors, agricultural people, self-automated irrigation system in the farmers, using drone. It's all IoT. Use of drone is IoT. But I did not have to go to this specifically IoT because IoT itself is a part of the innovation ecosystem. The use of the sensors to control things to do what we used to do physically ourselves is a part of the IoT. And IoT will also require, of course, the availability of frequency to be able to communicate in those range, which leads us to a 5G deployment, which is entirely a regulatory issue in Africa. So of course, IoT is a part of it. What is the IoT? Internet of Things. Today, we are 7.7 billion population in the world, 51% connected. How many people, you know exactly the explosion of IoT? We're talking about the 60 billion element connected. On an average of 5 items will be connected by person. Even when you have your iPad, you left your iPad in office and so on and so forth, it has some chips inside where you can find it. All this is the IoT. So IoT is when I say innovation, it's a holistic view of the innovation which implicate software development, IoT, some other things. That's one. Second thing, how are we going to be united? I will give you a very simple example. You are in Rwanda. When you send a WhatsApp to Cameroon, do you pay tax on it? Is there a custom? Is there a custom blocking the road for you to send the IoT, to send any message to Cameroon?
No.
Okay. All we are saying, African can be united faster using a free wave than anything else. Just think about it. Just think about a technology. When we talk about technology, we always agree. Always far away from politics. Then why don't we leverage that?
Absolutely.
Today we're talking about CFTA, a Continental Free Trade Agreement. We say free wave first. Let's talk to each other. Let's connect each other's country. Let's have framework. We can communicate. We can get to know each other based on the certain KYC, know your customer or know your citizen. That's one of the track. That's one of the blueprint track and the flagship led by Benin and Smart Africa, together with the Rwanda and Tunisia, who will do the pilot digital ID framework for Africa. Why are we doing this? Digital ID. Europe had to go through it. Europe had to go through it. Well, we believe we can do it because look at the way the African continent is divided. We have ECOWAS in the west, we have EAC in the east, we have SADC in the south, we have North, you understand what I'm saying? Everyone has a law, regulation, norm and conformity to follow in terms of identity. We are saying in the digital ID working group, let's come together and see what is tolerable between each of us, have it as a trust framework in a way that a citizen from Rwanda with the Rwandan IT, biometric ID, can travel to Benin and go through an e-gate. Why not? When you travel from Italy to France, why they don't check you? Why is the same thing? When you travel from Germany to Belgium, when you travel from Luxembourg to Spain, why them? Why not us? What unites us is bigger and more than what divides us. You have to remember that.
That's true.
That's what we're working on. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, DG. I've got a few questions here on the chat line. Nkubito, who is the CEO of ITI Africa, is asking, what is your take in developing big data in Africa? And what is Smart Africa doing to contribute to private sector companies investing in big data?
Thank you very much, yes. The big data is the future. Because the artificial intelligence feed itself from the big data. What is the big data? Every single thing, all of us will leave a digital footprint somewhere. It's an aggregation of collection of all these data becomes a big data, and you have analytical tools on the top of it to represent artificial intelligence. As you know, Garikai, we are launching very soon in the next few weeks a working group to support South Africa on the artificial intelligence activity, which is based on the big data. Yes, we are full in it. We are working on this one with our partner GIZ, that you all know from Germany, German Development Corporation. And we are involved in that, artificial intelligence and big data. We think it is important. In your view, most of us are engineers on this call. The best country who were able to eradicate COVID, it was done using big data. We all know that. South Korea, Singapore, Taiwan, China. It's the big data. What is that data? It's a collection of data which was coming from the telco industry. It is the big data. It is important. Okay, now the COVID fight side is not a technology, cell phone record, blah, blah, blah. But imagine a country has a well-structured framework for collecting a big data on your tax, on your expenses, on your travel, on your food, and everything you do, and have an analytical tool which represents artificial intelligence to predict the future consumption of the country or a continent. That's exactly what it's doing. I said before, top 8 GAFAM company on the Fortune 500, the market cap exceed 50 telecom combined company in the world. Why? Because they are in big data. Do you think that the Facebook is in the business of connecting you with your family? No, Facebook is in the business of collecting your data, your profile, what you like, what you dislike. Do you think WhatsApp is like, WhatsApp is allowing me to give a free communication between me and my family? Do you think, is that what it is? No. Do you know where your data is stored on the WhatsApp? Every morning, the first thing when you do in the morning, what do you do? When you wake up, you check first of all who sent me a WhatsApp or who tweeted it.
Yeah.
We don't know it, but we are all digitally colonized. And that's the worst colonization ever, because it is infinite. It's the data record. It's the digital footprint. It's not based on the gold, or the diamonds, or coffee or cocoa, which is a finite. That's even better when it's finite, our grandfather time or our father's time. But the digital colonization is infinite because you are hooked, just like a drug addict. Why do we have our data outside Africa? Why some of you cannot develop something, a chat box, we can communicate where our data is stored in Africa or in your local country? That is the big data. That's our fight. The big data does not go without personal data protection law that we have also track record working with the Senegal and Djibouti together for the data center flagship. When you say big data, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, personal data protection, they all go together. I'm glad that you brought that information, that question. Where is our big data today? Our big data is not in Africa. Our big data is owned by someone else. And at any given point, they know exactly what you like, what you dislike, where do you go. Let me give you a little story to make it really interesting. A friend of mine, I'm not gonna say the name, back in December, he picked up his phone, called an airline agency, said, I would like to go to Italy with my family. They booked airline. He said, I want you to book also the hotel on the internet, on the browser. They booked the hotel. 5 minutes later, he went on his Facebook. He saw on his Facebook, they were pushing, we have a special deal for you between December 22nd to 28th on Facebook. How did they know about it? How did they know about it? He just called and they used the browser. Nothing is free. If something is free, you must be the price. Thank you.
Thank you very much, DG. Thank you very much. I see Christophe. We've got about 15 minutes. So Christophe, please make it crisp and quick.
Yeah, thank you very much for this. I've been raising my hand. I'll be very quick, and I would like to start by saying thank you for the passion. This is something we need, and I wish it was on TV for everyone to see, because these are the type of information people don't have. I'm lucky to be in this area and this field and understand these things. But I've been reading a book, and one of the things which might lack in Africa, and I'm wondering if the Smart Africa is working on it, is the research part. As Africans, our research inputs, publication and stuff are like close to nil, to nothing. Same like the data we own in Africa. Like when I see the map, the world map, and I see transaction, Africa is actually in the dark. So I was wondering if there are projects or finances going toward the research, because as entrepreneur like us, we need people, we need those research to invent the product. Like I'm trying to hire in Rwanda, and I'll be honest, I'm desperate. Like, it's really, I woke up telling a friend, I can't understand. It's so difficult to get the information, to get the right people, and they have people in schools, but it seems like there is no link between what needs to be done and what they are learning, or I don't know, something is missing in between. Thank you very much, Mr. Koné, and I hope to chat with you next time. I'll add you on LinkedIn.
Thank you very much. I like these questions actually, but you see, very, very interesting. I come from the industry, from the satellite industry, well, telecommunication in general, and I work for Booz Allen Hamilton. If you don't know which one is, Booz is a management consulting firm. Do you know when I was working in America, when we were doing research on an African country like Rwanda, you know what we do? And we cannot find the data? We always take one of the European country or a Middle Eastern country, which has the same size in terms of a population, in terms of the GDP growth, and we mimic it. But it's not real data. Our institutions, I believe in the universities here, in the University of Rwanda, even the University of Lagos or stuff like that, there are research facilities. But we never came to understand that the research itself, it is the power of a country itself. What makes the Huawei today a Huawei? Why people are scared of Huawei? Do you know why? It's an R&D patent. It's an investment which goes into the R&D. What makes a Google Google? It's the R&D. What makes the Apple Apple? It's the R&D. That's what I'm saying. We are very glad and happy that now we have Marathon here, something made in Africa. As long as we remain consumer, we are done. All we are doing now, we're just consuming what people produce. What do we produce? What do we produce? You tell me. In technology, what do we produce? What is Africa known? We are the biggest exporter of the world. Biggest exporter of coffee, biggest exporter of cocoa. As long as we don't stop consuming, we will never be a united Africa prospering. I am being very bold here, but it's true. That's what our young people need to know. We have to stop consuming, we have to start creating.
This needs to go public, I say. Amen. You need to get the TV. Smart Africa need to have like a TV and show to say this stuff.
No, it is true. It is true. We are not producing. What are we producing? What are we producing?
Nothing.
We are not producing. We have to start producing. That's what I'm happy about this country. Here we assemble BMW, Volkswagen. Here we manage. The chairman of the head of the state, the chairman of His Excellency President Kagame, Bruce, he said, Marathon need to be from here, made here. We are producing something. We need to be consuming it. Sure. You see, that's the problem. When you start producing, then you will see the real value of R&D, research and development. Then you will set aside a budget because that's where the competition occurs. That's where the competition is happening. So our startups, which are the youngest population in the world, they have a lot of power. Whenever you're creating, inventing something, always make sure you have an intellectual property law set aside. That's what will make you. That's what you can sell. I won't be too long because this is a very deep subject.
But my question was, what is Smart Africa doing? I mean, in terms of going to push our policymakers, our budgets, and stuff to, I know companies need to go, but at some point we need to start with from somewhere. And Rwanda do a lot, actually, I agree.
All what we're doing, all what we can do, it is actually guide our startup and innovators to actually protect their property, their intellectual property, by having relationship. We work a lot with the IP for policy, and we do have intellectual property also firm within our organization as a partner, to protect what they create. But in terms of funds injected in the research and development, Smart Africa invests every year, not even every year, we invest every quarter on the study. Right now, we're doing a study for OTT, we're doing a study for bulk purchase, we're doing a study for digital ID, we're doing a study for broadband strategy, we're doing this study for digital economy, we're doing a study for yes, a Startup Act and so on and so forth. So we invest a lot of money every year, study basis. And those studies, we want to make it actually sustainable. Like every year, we go back and check, has anything changed? Has any indicator changed? Because that's what we do, because your story, the African story, is better told when it's told by itself. The development indices that we rely on those big institutional donors every year, they come, they said, we believe this is what is happening. But what did we say ourselves? That's what we want to know. So your story is better told when it's told by yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what we do in terms of research and development. But in terms of funding, like a big organization, it should be the role of the big SMEs, of the big companies in Africa. They should know, because innovation represents the engine, the startup represents the engine. When those intellectual property are well protected, it becomes an asset in those organizations. And our industry, they should be investing in young people inventing these things. There should be a budget. But you see, it's a mentality set. We need to change. We have to stop being consumers.
True. True.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, DG, for that. Thank you, Christophe. I recognize, I see Wesi Digital Intelligence. I think they have a question. Are you ready for it?
Yes, thank you guys, and thank you, Mr. Koné. This is very inspiring. My name is Rodrigue Fuafu. I'm originally from Cameroon, but moved to Canada 20 years ago. And this year I decided to move back to Africa. I'm an angel investor, been investing in across Africa in tech space, more than 45 startups in 8 years now. When I came back here, I decided to move in Rwanda here, where I'm currently is. One of the things that we've been facing was regarding the knowledge gap on the continent. And my question to you is the Smart Africa has a concrete plan to tackle or to address and to improve that knowledge gap across the continent, either in ICT or in the sector?
Thank you very much. We have a plan to actually shrinking that knowledge gap through the capacity building flagship by Burkina Faso. We'll be more than happy to share some of that with you, because when we say capacity building, don't look at it as a capacity building as just institutions capacity building, because no matter what, there is a gap. You see, in Africa, there are people who are ICT savvy. No, first, people who've been to school. People who've been to school, they're not ICT savvy. People who've been to school who are ICT savvy, and people who have not been to school at all and they're not ICT savvy. You see the gap. And we are saying 70 to 80% of the job in 2030 has not been created yet. So who's going to remain in job? That's what you're talking about. It means the government itself, government workers today, they need a capacity building in terms of ICT to go to the fourth, to be able to encounter the fourth industrial revolution. That is one challenge at the government level. Another level, which is also a challenge of the government, how do I shrink in the gap of education between people who do not know how to read, how to write, to use the technology? We address that in Smart Africa using artificial intelligence. Because you know why? Chinese did not have to learn English to be where China is today, right? That's what I said to you. Who said seriously speak English? China didn't need to. China did not need to learn English to be where they are. So we have to stop thinking that if I'm not educated, I am doomed. No, artificial intelligence can help you. Government capacity building is employee one. Capacity building of uneducated people, artificial intelligence. People who are in the middle, they've been to school, they're not ICT savvy, that's a vocational training. And also we have to see the governments. Don't forget about girls in ICT. It's not a boys club. And we see that a lot happening in Africa. We should be promoting gender. Because when you promote gender, they become advocate for the young girls. Traditionally in Africa, girls have been seen like people who should be sitting home to be followers. No, who said so? No. We have Miss Gig during Transform Africa. So capacity building, we have the whole holistic approach on the capacity building. And even soon, very soon, together with the Smart Africa Startup Act, we want to launch Smart Africa Talent Academy. The Talent Academy is based on a model that we've seen in Spain with our collaboration partnership with the Barcelona government. And stay tuned, you will be seeing that on the social media. I can't talk about it. It's called Smart Academy, Smart Africa Talent Academy. Okay.
Absolutely. I think stay tuned for that. We're quickly running out of time. But I think the talent question is also the same question that Alois was asking, just about talent. So I think, Didi, you've answered that. And then I see Josiane had asked about IoT, which you had also responded to, I think, just now. So I think one thing that I'll ask, just as we tie down this discussion, I think there have been a lot of questions, there have been a lot of insight. A lot of people are very excited. I see Kwabena Apia is saying that he cannot agree with you more. COVID-19 has enabled the digital economy. The new normal is the digitization of things. And they say they're from Ghana and they're using a digital solution in the agricultural landscape. Can I just give 2 minutes just to Kwabena, just to tell us about what they're doing, just as a point of inspiration?
Sure.
Kwabena, are you with
me? Is he here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much. Good morning from Ghana.
Hello.
And thank you for the opportunity here. So this is what we are doing. We are using a mobile app known as the IVR. In full, is an interactive voice response. And because of COVID-19, our programming in the agri space, we work at cocoa farmers and then oil palm farmers. We train them in sustainable ways of production. And because of COVID-19 restricted movements, we are unable to move to our program districts to train them. So what we are doing now is that by the use of mobile technology, we have been able to get the content in cubes, small cubes, by which we send this information to them. So they receive now training on the mobile phone. What it does is an intelligently built system by which we call them, and at the press of a button, the training is offered to them in bits. So we call them like 5 minutes in a day. We are doing them in small bits so that you don't overload them with information. So we do it gradually and it's getting a lot of results. We are not entirely cut off because of COVID-19. We are using mobile technology to reach them and it's very fantastic. Thank you.
Congratulations on that. I think that's a powerful point of inspiration. And I think we have seen quite a lot of good innovation coming from Ghana, I think, over time. So congratulations on that. Mr. Koné, I think we're out of time. I'm just going to ask you just to give us one closing word of inspiration.
You know, I am very happy to be here. I'm very happy to be invited. But I will always say, just like Steve Jobs said, when we are all growing up, we've been told this is the way things are, this is the way things are done. But we don't have to abide by it, no. Because the day you discover that you can do it differently, more efficiently, your life will never be the same again. Steve Jobs said that. I look at that sentence and I actually carefully study it, and it's very true. We grew up in Africa, we were born in Africa, grew up in Africa. We work by the rules, we abide by the rules. But our imaginations should not be bounded by our capacity or financial capacity, no. our intellectual capability should not be bound by saying this is the way it's been done. It's been done this way in the West, it should be done that way in Africa. We have a completely different context. And many things unite us than divide us. This is for the entrepreneurs, the innovators. We as a Smart Africa, we do our best in terms of policy harmonization, in terms of startup assistance to be recognized, whether in Rwanda, Kenya, South Africa, and so on and so forth. But as they say sometimes, good luck works sometime, but hard work works all the time. So it's only by working hard that Africa and our head of the state, they can rely on us as Africa stand on our shoulder. And we'll be here to assisting anyone who need more information. Investment is important in Africa, but investment is important, but the regulation harmonization is much, much important than investment, because regulation, good regulation will attract investments to unlimited level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Koné. I think this was very inspirational. Thank you very much, KLab, for putting this together. I think this was an amazing session. Thank you to the audience that attended. I think you were great. The questions that came through were amazing. I think I'll just leave with a few words from what Mr. Koné has given us today. The first thing I'll leave you with is he said that we've got the capacity to build, to create a billionaire every single day in Africa. And I think that's something that we need to hold to heart. Is it going to be you? If not you, then who? If not now, then when? And then he also said that the future depends on us. So that comes back to us in terms of how we can prove what we can do and how we can move ahead. So with that, I think we'll close this particular session, and thank you so much for this virtual KLab virtual talk. It's been an amazing and inspirational session. Mr. Koné, we hope to see you next time. Aphrodite, thank you for putting it together. And everyone, please have a good day.
Thank you. Have a great day and stay safe.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Garikai.
Thank you.
Mr. Lacina. Thank you.
Check.